Hello, I'm Peter Ungar, chef owner of The Dining Alternative, private dining service where we bring the fine dining restaurant experience to your home. I'm going to show you my white miso cured wild Alaskan black cod. And what we do is we start off with a beautiful piece of fish. As you have here, this is the wild Alaskan black cod. You take a whole side of it. This has been very nicely prepared for us. This fish comes from the Gulf of Alaska or the Bering Sea, somewhere around that neighborhood. So the first thing I'm going to do, even before I put the curing mixture together, is I'm going to take some miso paste, about a tablespoon's worth, and I thin this out. Thin this out with just a pinch of water, just so it's more manageable. That's all you're looking for, instead of having a thick paste. And I'm going to take this. This fish there's been nothing done to it except butchered, and I patted it down really nicely, got any natural juices off of it. So this is going to begin the curing process here. Miso has a very high salt content. So our curing solution is equal parts salt and sugar, granulated sugar and kosher salt. I got half a cup here of each. Mixed it together. So I'm going to pour that in to our food processor. Then I also have a tablespoon each, measured out, of fennel seed and Szechuan peppercorns. Both have a really nice fruity fragrance to it. I've taken both, put it into my pan, and very lightly toasted it. There's almost no alteration in the color, very, very light, toasty color to it. But really what you're looking for when you toast spices is the fragrance. You want to smell it, and you want to smell that fragrance coming up. And that's your real indication that the toasting is happening. And then I'm going to take a heavy pan and simply give it a nice little crack. And just rock it back and forth. I'm not grinding this to the point where it's like cracked pepper. I'm just giving each of these little pieces a little crack just to open it up, bring out the fragrance even more. Then I'm going to add about a tablespoon or so the zest of one orange. That goes in there as well. This is to kind of bring out that nice orange flavor in the yuzu. Yuzu has a very sharp taste, and this will help balance it out. And then I'm going to take some herbs, bunch of herbs. Here we have cilantro, parsley, and basil, about equal parts of each. Parsley and basil, they've been picked free of their stems. Cilantro, I've kept the stems in there, taken off the bigger, heavier stems, but cilantro is a very fine herb. You can eat the stems. Especially in this process, we're going to blend everything up together. I've rinsed them very well, spun it, gotten all the moisture out. You don't want any excess moisture in there. They're nice and dry. This is about a cup's worth. It looks like a lot, but really, if you were to pack this down, this really is about a cup's worth of herbs, which is what you're looking for. And then, not to forget, our yuzu juice. I'm going to pour all this in here. And then I'm simply going to blend this up to consistency. So that means, how long am I blending it for? It's going to be a visual clue at this point, how finely to blend this. So I'm just And it happens fairly quickly. So here you can see the consistency of it, very nicely blended up. This is all a curing agent, a flavoring agent. You're not going to end up eating this. So here we have our black cod. We've already started with the miso, white miso paste. Now I'm simply going to lather this curing solution onto the fish. So you can see how I have the saran wrap is layered down. I'm going to get all of this on there. There we go, and the smell is fantastic, just with the fennel seed, with the Szechuan pepper, with the yuzu, with the herbs, the orange zest. Now I'm going to wrap this up really nice and tightly. Bring one side up. Meet it with the other side. So I'm doing it to squeeze out any air, but not too hard to start squeezing out the curing mixture, curing juice. And then I'm going to just put one more layer on for good measure. Especially since I'm going to end up flipping this halfway through the curing process. So I'm going to cure this for about 24 to 36 hours. This is this piece I'm estimating for about 30 hours or so. And then once it's cured, the best way to check it, one way to check it is by feeling it, and you'll feel it's very, very, very soft now, completely raw. As it cures, it's a form of cooking, of course without any heat. The salt and acid cures it, that's cooking it, denaturalizing the proteins that are in the fish, and it's going to become more firm. So that's one way, one indication of the curing process is evolving by it firming up. However, the only way to really check is simply opening it up, slicing off a piece, rinsing it off. You want to make sure the curing solution is rinsed off nicely, and trying it and seeing has the curing solution penetrated into the flesh itself. So that's the best way of checking it. So I'm going to weigh this down now. Weighing it down is going to help it cure more evenly and also give it a nice shape. Obviously, the piece of fish, it's natural, it's uneven, it's asymmetrical. So when we weigh it down, it's going to give it a nice flat appearance, which we'll be able to process much more easily, and also it'll cure more evenly, like I mentioned. So here I have another Pyrex, which is actually a little bit smaller, kind of nesting in here. It's very convenient. A couple nice cans, heavy cans that are going to go on top. What I do is I make little foil balls like this that I'm going to put on either side, and I'll show you why. If I were to simply put this on as is, you can see how it wants to tilt one way or another. It's a balancing act, which I guess I could balance it like that, but it's quite precarious. So in order to stabilize it, made little foil balls, squish them down so it's a little shorter than the fish itself. You still want the fish to be pressed upon. And now the wobbling effect is much less because you have these little foil balls there stabilizing it. So now this, as is going to go into the fridge, and in about 12 to 15 hours or so, I'm going to check it. Regardless of how it is, I'm going to at least flip it at that point and let it go on for several more hours, depending on how far the curing process has gone through. So here we have our wild Alaskan black cod that has been cured now for nearly 36 hours. It's a little under. It's been about just over 30 hours. And it has somewhat of a firmer texture than it had before when it was raw. If you're talking about a cooked piece of fish, it feels about medium rare-ish. So I'm going to unwrap it, and I'm going to remove my curing solution. And I don't know how visible it is to the camera, but it's certainly a lot firmer than it was before. And of course, the color, immediately you can tell how it's absorbed a lot of the color from the herbs, and it looks cured. But most importantly, I tried some, and I'm feeling the texture, which is the true indication of whether it's been cured enough. Now I'm going to take this piece of fish, rinse it off thoroughly in very cold water. There's a little controversy over whether you should rinse the fish or not. My belief is that any flavor that you are gaining from the curing solution is in the fish itself, not on the outside of the fish. I don't want this curing anymore. So I want to make sure that any excess salt and citrus acid, which is the yuzu, is rinsed off thoroughly. Whatever's made its way into the fish is all I want. And I'm going to take care of the rest of it. So here we have our wild Alaskan black cod that's been cured, fully cured, and we're ready to finish the process of creating our dish. I'm going to start by slicing nice thin. You can see how it's nice and translucent, the fish. I'm going to cut nice. Thin slices. It's a beautiful fish. Lay it down. I'm going at a hard bias, about 45 degrees or so. I'm just going to do one more slice. Finish it up. And if I were serving many people, I could have this, pretty long. I'm going to stop here. You can also, since this has been fully cured, it's been rinsed thoroughly, I keep that kind of folded up to keep it nice and moist so it doesn't dry out. Wrap it up tightly and put it away. It can last for several days. I'm going to fold it over. So here we have our fish nicely sliced. And I'm going to use a rolling pin to gently even this out and kind of let these pieces come together. Another way to do this is very gently with a meat mallet, very gently tapping it, or the bottom of a pan. You can take it very gently, not pressing too hard, but just enough to give it some weight. I like using a rolling pin because I have the most control over it and I can see immediately what the effect is on the fish itself. I'm going to open this back up. Okay, so now I'm going to take some of my crab mixture and do a nice even line off center. Starting about a ½ inch from the edge. Okay. And now I'm going to take my saran, a little too much here. I'm going to trim it up just a little bit. It's always good to have nice little snacky pieces. Roll this up as tightly as you can without pressing the mixture out. So you really want it to be nice and tight. And once it starts to overlap, at that point, we're going to trim it. You don't want too much of this fish. This fish is very flavorful. A little goes a long way. And these scraps could make a great ceviche-style garnish salad, or just as is with some creme fraiche on toast. Quite delicious. And now we're going to kind of press back with my thumb, make it nice and tight. Roll it up, pinch the two edges, and I'm just rolling it on the board, letting it roll up on its own. So now I'm going to place this in the fridge, ideally for about an hour. You really want this. It's gotten kind of warm here with me working with it for as long as I did. It's fish, so it needs to be nice and cold. Also, as it chills up, the piece will meld a little nicer, and it'll be easier to work with, and the presentation will be a lot cleaner. We've let it chill for about an hour now, and has firmed up nicely, chilled thoroughly. And I'm going to simply start by, with the wrapper still on, so it's kind of a frame, kind of a guide to keep the fish together. I'm going to slice very nice and gently through it. Always take, with things like this, you just really want to take your time. There's no rush. I'm going to unravel it. Or she slides right off. Your nice little barrel of white miso cured wild Alaskan black cod, with our crab meat in the center. Take my plate. Take a little bit of our avocado mousseline. Nice dollop. Take some of our pickled radish, some of our pomelo juice sacks, a touch of preserved Meyer lemon oil. Mix that together. Take two of these barrels, seam side down. Just want to make sure it looks nice and clean. Have it right on top. And then finish with a touch more of the preserved Meyer lemon oil, drizzled around. And of course, I always plate things as the customer would see it, or as my guest would see it. Turn it around for you to see it. Here we have our white miso cured wild Alaskan black cod with Jonah crab, avocado mousseline, pickled radish, yuzu, pomelo, and preserved Meyer lemon.